Have you ever wondered why no matter how hard you work it feels like you're just treading water? Why prices always seem to rise faster than your paycheck? Why debt feels like a trap you can't escape? And why financial crises keep happening over and over? This isn't an accident. It's not a beginner system. It's the system itself, a centuries-old equation, engineered to funnel wells upward. And the most dangerous part? Most people don't even know it exists. Today, we're going to uncover that equation. We'll explore where it came from, how it spread across the globe, and why it silently dictates who wins, who loses, and who never gets ahead. To understand this, we have to go back in time, not just a few decades, but millennia. Long before Wall Street, ancient rulers discovered something profound. Controlling money was more powerful than controlling armies. In Mesopotamia, the first recorded debts weren't between merchants. They were between kings and their subjects. Temples would loan out grain or silver, then demand repayment with interest. When farmers couldn't pay, they lost their land and their freedom. From its very beginning, debt was a political tool, a mathematical leash. Fast forward to 17th century England. The empire was growing, but endless wars were expensive. The solution? The Bank of England, the world's first central bank. It didn't create money from treasure, it created money from promises. For every pound of gold in its vaults, it issued 10 times more in paper notes. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking, the idea that money could be created out of thin air, as long as people believed in it. And who benefited most? The lenders. Because for every pound loaned, interest was owed. Indeed, that interest demanded constant, endless growth. By the 20th century, this system was global. When nations borrowed to build, fight wars, or stimulate their economies, they did so with money created by private banks. Every dollar, pound, or euro that entered circulation began as someone else's debt. The math is simple but devastating. If all money is created as debt, and all debts must be repaid with interest, then there is never enough money in existence to pay everything back. Someone, somewhere, must always lose. That's the debt equation. It guarantees a constant, invisible competition with the wealthy on the system, and everyone else struggles to stay afloat. After the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and the collapse of the gold standard in 1971, nations were finally free from the constraints of gold. But instead of creating freedom, it multiplied control. Now, money and debt could be printed infinitely. And when governments borrow endlessly, who do they borrow from? The very same financial institutions that create the money. The result is a global treadmill, where every country has to run faster and faster just to avoid falling behind. When the United States abandoned the gold standard, something fundamental changed. Money no more longer represented real value. It represented a debt obligation. This turned central banks into architects of perception. By adjusting interest rates, they could create the illusion of prosperity. But there's a catch. Every boom requires more debt. Every crisis, more bailouts. And every bailout, more inequality. Between 1980 and today, global debt has exploded from around $80 trillion to over $330 trillion. In that same period, the top 1% captured more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. Why? Because the system rewards owning asset stocks, real estate, bonds while punishing those who only earn wages. When money is cheap, the rich borrow to buy assets. When inflation hits, the value of those assets skyrockets. But for workers, their paychecks don't keep up with their rent, their groceries, or their taxes. That's the debt equation in action. Debt grows, prices rise, wages stagnate, and the average person, just trying to survive, ends up feeding the system through consumption financed by more credit. Financial crashes aren't failures of the system, they're maintenance cycles. They're moments when the machine resets, pushing wealth back to the top. In 2008, trillions were created overnight to save banks deemed too big to fail. But who was really saved? The same institutions that caused the crisis. Ordinary families lost their homes, their jobs, and their futures. The rich, they lost almost nothing. In fact, men got even richer as all the cheap money poured back into stocks and the real estate. It's a pattern as old as the system itself. When debt becomes unbearable, the poor pay through inflation. When markets crash, the poor pay through unemployment. And when governments print more money, the poor pay with their lost purchasing power. So when the next crisis hits, the solution will likely be the same: more control, more debt, and more illusion. Politicians promise reform, economists promise balance, but every fix just seems to rebrand the same old equation. Universal basic income, funded by more government borrowing, stimulus checks, no money printed from debt. Even crypto, once seen as the great escape, now often dances to the same tune of speculation and decentralized influence. It seems every attempt to level the playing field is still played on a field built by the same rules, designed by the same architects. It's not the players that need to change, it's the game itself. Just look around today. So, what can we take away from all this? First, money isn't wealth, it's a representation of debt. Understanding that difference changes everything. Second, inflation isn't an accident, it's a feature, a tool to keep the machine running. And third, true power lies not in creating money, but in controlling who gets access to credit. The dark equation isn't written in stone, it's written in policy, in law, and most importantly, in belief. And beliefs can be changed. The world runs on a silent formula that trades your time for someone else's profit. But every system built on an illusion eventually faces a reckoning. The question isn't if it will break, but when and who will be ready when it does. If this video helped you see the system in a new light, please share it. Awareness is the first crack in the equation. Subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden architecture of our world. And remember, the most powerful currency you have isn't money, it's understanding.